As the sun sets on the small town of Green Hills, whispers of fear begin to spread. For years, the townsfolk have lived in peace, but now a dark force has returned. A force that has haunted their dreams since childhood. The Boogeyman. The legend of the Boogeyman has been passed down for generations, but is it just a myth or is it real? That's what a team of investigators aims to find out. A psychologist, a paranormal investigator, and a skeptic come together to uncover the truth. As they interview families who have witnessed the Boogeyman's presence, the team sets up cameras and recording equipment, hoping to capture evidence of its existence. But as the days go by, strange things begin to happen. Doors slam shut, objects move on their own, and people are dragged from their beds at night. The team is in a race against time to uncover the truth before it's too late. Is the Boogeyman real or just a figment of the town's imagination? The answer will shock them all. Join us as we journey into the heart of darkness, where the line between reality and myth is blurred. Will the team survive their encounter with the Boogeyman? Find out in Boogeyman, Real or Myth, only on TheTaleKeepers. The small town of Millfield had always been a peaceful place, where children played in the streets and parents sat on their porches, chatting with neighbors. But lately, something had changed. The once quiet town was now filled with fear and uncertainty, as strange occurrences began happening around the area. It started with whispers in the night. People would hear strange noises like someone was talking just out of earshot. At first, they thought it was just the wind, but the whispers kept coming and got louder and louder. Then the shadows began darting across windows. People would see something moving just beyond the glass, a dark figure flitting from one side of the pane to the other. Some were convinced it was just their imagination, while others began to feel a creeping sense of unease. But it was the reports of a tall, dark figure lurking in the shadows that really set everyone on edge. They knew what it was. The Boogeyman had returned. The Boogeyman was a myth in Millfield. Parents would talk about him to scare their kids into being good. They would tell stories of a dark figure that would come out at night, snatching up children who didn't listen to their parents. As the children grew older, they stopped believing in the Boogeyman, dismissing it as just a silly legend. But now, it seemed the legend had come back to life. People began locking their doors and windows at night, afraid to let the Boogeyman in. Children refused to sleep alone, clinging to their parents in terror. And the more people talked about the Boogeyman, the more real it seemed to become. As the days wore on, the town became increasingly tense. People stopped venturing out at night, and the streets were eerily quiet after dark. The local police department was inundated with calls about the Boogeyman, but they couldn't find any evidence of a creature lurking in the shadows. But the fear was palpable, and it seemed like something was about to snap. That's when the town decided to call in a team of investigators to get to the bottom of the situation. The team consisted of a psychologist, a paranormal investigator, and a skeptic who didn't believe in any of it. Together, they set out to discover the truth behind the Boogeyman's return. Little did they know, they were about to uncover a truth that would shake the town to its core. The team of investigators arrived in Millfield to a town in a state of panic. They set up their headquarters in the local police station and began their investigation. The team consisted of a psychologist named Dr. Emma Phillips, a paranormal investigator named Jack Wilson, and a skeptic named Mark Johnson. Dr. Phillips began by interviewing the families who had reported sightings of the Boogeyman. She found that they were all experiencing intense fear and anxiety, with some even refusing to leave their homes at night. Dr. Phillips suspected that the fear was feeding into itself, creating a kind of mass hysteria. She recommended that the town hold a community meeting to discuss their fears and try to alleviate them. While this was going on, Jack Wilson set up cameras and recording gear all over the town to catch any sign of the Boogeyman. He also conducted interviews with locals who had seen the creature, trying to get a better sense of what they had experienced. Jack was a seasoned paranormal investigator and had seen his fair share of strange things, but he was skeptical of the Boogeyman legend. Mark Johnson, on the other hand, didn't believe in any of it. He thought the whole thing was a hoax, or at best a case of mass hysteria. he spent his time investigating other potential explanations for the strange occurrences in Millfield, such as gas leaks or hallucinogenic plants. Despite their differing beliefs, the team worked well together, each bringing their own unique perspective to the investigation. They spent long nights poring over footage and audio recordings, looking for any evidence of the boogeyman's presence. But as the days went on, they found nothing conclusive. One night, as the team was huddled in their makeshift headquarters, a loud banging came from outside. They rushed to the window and saw a figure darting across the street, disappearing into the darkness. It was the first time they had seen anything resembling the boogeyman, and it sent a chill down their spines. The team sprang into action, grabbing their equipment and heading out into the night. They searched the streets and alleyways, but found nothing. It was as if the boogeyman had vanished into thin air. Despite the setback, the team remained determined to uncover the truth behind the boogeyman's return. They continued their investigation, knowing that the lives of the town's residents were at stake. But as they delved deeper into the mystery, they began to realize that the truth was far more terrifying than anything they had ever imagined. The team of investigators had been working tirelessly for weeks, searching for any evidence of the boogeyman's presence in Millfield. So far, they had watched a lot of footage and talked to a lot of people, but they had not found anything. But one night, while they were reviewing footage from a camera mounted on a street corner, they caught a glimpse of something truly terrifying. A tall, dark figure with glowing red eyes darted across the screen, disappearing into the shadows. It was the boogeyman, and it was watching the town. As the team continued to investigate, the boogeyman grew bolder. It began leaving evidence of its presence, such as strange symbols etched into walls and floors. People reported being dragged from their beds at night, only to wake up alone and terrified. The team was at a loss. They had never encountered anything like this before. Dr. Phillips began to suspect that the boogeyman was a manifestation of the town's collective fears and anxieties. But Jack and Mark remained convinced that there was something more going on. One night, as they were walking back to their headquarters, they saw a figure in the shadows. It was the boogeyman, and it was coming straight towards them. The team froze in terror as the creature loomed closer, its glowing red eyes fixed on them. Suddenly, the boogeyman lunged at them, and they scattered in different directions. Jack ran towards the nearest building, hoping to find a place to hide. Mark and Dr. Phillips headed towards the police station, hoping to find some kind of weapon. As they ran through the deserted streets, they could hear the boogeyman's footsteps behind them. It was getting closer, and they knew they didn't have much time. Finally, they reached the police station and quickly barricaded themselves inside. They could hear the boogeyman pounding on the doors, trying to break through. Mark found a shotgun in the armory of the station, and they got ready to defend themselves. But as they stood there, waiting for the creature to break through, they realized that they were trapped. There was no way out. Suddenly the pounding stopped. The team waited, listening for any sound, but there was nothing. The boogeyman had vanished, leaving behind only a trail of destruction and terror. The team knew that they had to act fast. They had to find a way to stop the boogeyman before it struck again. But as they searched for answers, they began to realize that they were up against something far more powerful than they had ever imagined. Something that couldn't be stopped by conventional means. The psychologist worked with individual families to help them cope with the trauma they had experienced. They taught them techniques to manage their anxiety and fear, and encouraged them to seek professional help if needed. The paranormal investigator helped to demystify the boogeyman, showing that it was not a supernatural entity, but rather a product of the town's psychological state. As the town began to recover, the boogeyman's presence grew weaker. It no longer appeared in people's homes or on their streets. The symbols it had etched into walls began to fade away. The skeptic on the team remained skeptical throughout the investigation, but even they couldn't deny the evidence they had seen. The team's efforts and the progress the town had made impressed them. One night, as the team was packing up their equipment, they heard a loud noise coming from the town square. They rushed over to see what was happening and found a large crowd gathered around a bonfire. The town had come together to burn all the objects that had once filled them with fear and anxiety, symbolically banishing the boogeyman for good. The team watched as the flames licked at old toys, books, and other objects. As the fire grew, the town erupted into cheers and applause. They had overcome their fear and were ready to move forward. As the team left the town, they knew they had made a difference. The boogeyman may have been a manifestation of fear, but it had been real to the people of the town. They had helped the community come together and overcome their fears, and that was something to be proud of. But as they drove away, the team couldn't shake the feeling that the boogeyman wasn't really gone. They had banished it from the town, but what if it appeared elsewhere? What if it found a new community to prey upon? They looked at each other, knowing that the fight against fear was never truly over. But for now, they could be proud of the work they had done and the lives they had helped to change. The town was never the same after the boogeyman incident. Although the team had successfully banished the creature, the trauma and fear it had caused lingered in the hearts and minds of the people. Some moved away, unable to shake the feeling of dread that had settled over the town. Others stayed, determined to rebuild and move on. The team continued to work together, using their experience to help other towns overcome their own fears and traumas. Since the psychologist had seen firsthand how fear and anxiety can hurt people, she made it her job to help other people deal with their feelings. The paranormal investigator became a respected expert in his field by using his knowledge to disprove myths and legends and shed light on the unknown. And even the skeptic in his tragic death had taught the team an important lesson about the dangers of disbelief and the need for empathy and understanding. Years went by, and the boogeyman became nothing more than a distant memory. The town had rebuilt and healed, and the people had learned to face their fears with strength and resilience. But every once in a while, on a dark and stormy night, someone would swear they saw a shadow moving in the corner of their eye or hear whispers in the wind. And although they knew it couldn't be real, a shiver would run down their spine, and they would remember the terror the boogeyman had brought to their town. The investigation team never forgot the lessons they had learned in that small town, and they continued to work together to bring hope and healing to those who needed it most. They knew that the boogeyman might be gone, but the darkness it represented would always be lurking, waiting for its chance to take hold. And they were determined to do everything in their power to keep it at bay. Thank you for joining us on this bone-chilling journey into the heart of darkness. If you enjoyed our investigation into the boogeyman's reign of terror, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to comment below with your own spine-tingling paranormal encounters. Be sure to subscribe to TheTaleKeepers for more terrifying tales, and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when we release our next video. We can't wait to hear your stories and continue our exploration into the unknown. Until then, stay safe and beware of the boogeyman.